Namaste and welcome back to yet another enlightening session on Saptarishi's YouTube channel. Today we have with us someone who is just not an astrologer but also a yogi. We can say that he's a yogi at heart first before he got into astrology after being guided by the story of his guru. In today's session, we would discuss on a topic which never has been showcased on this channel, and for sure it would be a great learning experience to all. From Rashi Dasha to Pranayam and how Pranayam is connected with Jupiter, let's all study this in today's session, and let's all welcome Corey to our channel to know more about this topic. Corey, a heartily welcome to you.
Hi, thank you.
It's so nice to have you on our channel. And I know you are very busy and it's very difficult to have an appointment from you. You are booked for more than a couple of months in advance. So thank you so much accepting our request to come on our channel and share your knowledge with us. Just to start with, we would like to have a brief history of yours as how you actually started. You being an yogi, then coming into the field of astrology, or you an astrologer, then becoming an yogi?
So, thank you to begin with, and I'm really honored to be on this channel. I was really honored to be asked to be on here. Yes, I was first a yogi, and I first wanted to learn how to figure out my mind and control my mind, and wanted to know the meaning of life and all these questions, and we just don't have the answers in, at least over here in the Western culture. We just didn't have the answers. And it's not that I don't like the Western culture, have anything against it, but I read little things here and there growing up. Even looking at Asian art really appealed to me. And then when I learned about yoga and meditation, and it just clicked. I thought, oh, okay. It was almost like a reminder. It was like a refresher course. It was like yes, this is what I needed to do. So I did start as a yogi, and then learning meditation. My meditation teacher was also an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer. So it just naturally led me to that. And it, I guess, as you know, yogis use Vedic astrology for millennia to help understand their karma and all the issues and what the blocks are to us getting enlightened. And I really appreciated that side, because Western astrology, again, I studied it a little bit before I switched and started learning Vedic, but it was a little bit more like everything's okay, I'm okay, you're okay, we're all okay. But I didn't resonate with that. Like, there are problems in the world. Where do I see the problems? Where are my problems and how do I fix them? And that's much more what I think the Indian tradition excels at. And because they have generations of enlightened people saying, like, look, these are the obstacles to your karma, and show you the kundali and the chart and everything. And that just resonated with me, that whole approach. So does that give you a little bit of it?
Yes. And just to understand, it's how long are you doing this? Are you into meditation and astrology?
Yes. So so my whole life I have always been very contemplative, but I didn't learn Kriya Yoga until 2008. So I've been doing it about 8.5 years, every day. I meditate every day, 30 minutes a day at least. I mean, if I can't or whatever, I'm traveling a little bit, that's okay. But that's the general routine. I'm not the most hardcore yogi. I honestly felt, when you said I was a yogi, I feel inwardly like that's such a high title that I can't attain. No, you know what I mean? But I do my best, and we all have to do our best. but I can't say that I am the most hardcore yogi. I don't know how to levitate. You know, I don't have siddhis, you know. Um, but yeah, yoga and meditation is just really the answer to so many of our problems. So this is why the you know, the modern world is embracing it. The modern world has so much, yet they still can't figure out their own mind. You know what I mean? And that's why we are still looking to yoga and the gurus and the lineage and all these things. So I learned Kriya Yoga. That was the lineage that I learned from. But I'm not saying it's the best or anything. It's just a good one for Americans because Yogananda, as you probably know, like came to America and actually met and talked to us and showed us and took us by the hand, sort of,
Correct.
which is what we needed. But there, you know, I've learned from tons of other gurus. I really love Meher Baba. I really love Ramana Maharshi. I love Ramakrishna. You know, just the list goes on. Really, I could talk about that all day.
Oh.
Yeah, but I've been doing it for about 8 years, and then I got into Vedic astrology very quickly, just a year into doing Kriya Yoga. So in 2009, I started formally taking classes, and then around 2012 was when I really got serious about it and just jumped into the next level. And actually, my Charanavamsha dashas sort of indicate that too.
Great,
Yeah.
great. So just a single question before we get into the topic today. We have many astrologers today, but it's very hard to meet someone who is into meditation, into spiritual practices and astrology. So
Yes.
from the seat where you are today on the spiritual bench, as per you, what exactly is astrology? Because nowadays we see that people have made this science a matter or a subject of earning money, fame, name. But from your standard point of view, what exactly is astrology?
That's such a deep question. I'll do my best to answer it. Right now, I love to see astrology as we all know that, you know, everything is God, but we intellectually just saying that doesn't make us really see it. But when we look at the charts over and over and for years and years of studying, okay, this is the chart of my friend who's a musician and he has the music placements and he doesn't have these placements, but he does have these, and this is why he's that way. This is why this friend is a merchant and wants to just make money. And then this is why this person wants to be a leader and, you know, be in politics or something. And, you know, when I was younger, I was maybe a little bit more judgmental of everyone around me and didn't know why other people didn't see things the same way as me. And astrology has just taught me that everything really is the infinite one, you know, Vishnu, whatever you want to call it. Everything is that Brahman. And it just takes so many different forms. And astrology shows us how Vishnu is taking all these forms, you know, like the very beginning of, or, you know, I'm just saying Vishnu, but whatever you conceive of as God, you know, like in the beginning of Brihat Parashara Horashastra, he says that, you know, all the beings take their birth through the planets, you know what I mean?
Correct.
And the avatars have just Paramatma consciousness, but all of us are in the same way doing it, but we have the Jivatma consciousness, more earth consciousness. And so it's the only game in town, you know, like the astrology is sort of, if you're of an intellectual bent, you know, if you're not, that's fine. Like you can just love God and sing on and chant all day, but there are people who are very intellectual and are meant to use their mind and the mental fire. And if you have that, and if you're inclined to study and understand it, you should study astrology. Truthfully, that is the real value and wealth of astrology. The wealth, if I do a reading for someone who watches this, then yeah, I can do a lot of great things for you, but that's not as great as the lifelong study of Jyotish, you know? That's a treasure on its own, just to be able to study that and have sort of like a tool to like slowly learn more and more about the creator and everything every day. You know, does that make sense?
Yes, yes, a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Actually, why this question came into my mind, your site name is unique. I've seen many sites, and the site that you have designed, the domain that you have, Eye of the Vedas. So,
Yes.
due to that reason, this question clicked that I should ask, because being at that spiritual place, then only you can actually visualize. Because we just read that Jyotish is a Vedang, it is the
Yeah.
eye with which it is connected. But you have given that and you have taken that domain, and through that, you are guiding everyone who is connecting with you on a daily basis.
You know, you're right. I should have maybe started with that. When I first made that website name, it's almost like a joke that Vishnu played on me, because I had no idea how true that would become. You know, that at the time that I made that, I believed that, but it wouldn't be true to say that I had really fully experienced that yet. But I believe that it was the eye of the Veda. But that's what I'm trying to say, is like, it's the eye of all of this. So it's, and you know, that's the thing, is like me just teaching, yeah, like you just read in a book or on the internet, the astrology is the eye of the Veda. That doesn't really make it actually click. That's not the aha moment that the sages wanted us to get. And through that, we have to study, do the math, research. Oh wow, again, we see this happening. That's when we get the eye of the Veda, through our own study and our own process. You know what I mean? But of course, you won't even get that if you don't have the grace of a teacher and a guru. Of course, that's still important. But you're right, the eye of the Veda, that is kind of in a nutshell. If someone is a Westerner and doesn't know anything about this, another way I explain it is that it's like in math class, at least when I was going to school in math, you had to show your work. And so you couldn't just, so that you proved you weren't just cheating and copying someone else, you had to show how you got to your division answer. So that's what a birth chart is Vishnu showing his work. Does
Correct.
that make sense?
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. Now let's get into the topic of what actually we would be seeing today.
Yes.
Everyone is aware and known about Vimshotri Dasha, or the Navamsha chart, or the division, the D9. But today we have something very unique. People might have heard about it. This comes more from the Jaimini Sutras, the Charanavamsha Dasha. The dashas of the Rashis and not the planet. So, Corey, all to you. We would love to listen you on this unique dasha system.
Yeah. So I imagine there may be some people listening who don't even know that there are Rashi dasas, because I didn't know that for a long time. And so to begin with, there are a lot of different timing systems or dashas. And so this is just one. So don't ever expect to see everything from just one, because if so, the sages would have just given us one and not given us so many, you know what I mean? But life on earth is very complex, and every human being has a very complex life. So there are so many things going on, and I guess the dashas sort of show how the energy is flowing through the chart in different ways. And so to begin with, don't expect to see everything from just one dasha. So that's why it's good to learn a couple, you know what I mean? And eventually to learn all of them, but it takes a lot. So we know about Vimshatari dasha. That's the most popular, and probably for good reason. It's the one I use the most. So I would say, continue still using all this and everything you know about that. But then also you can use Charanavamsha dasha to give you just a second angle, to give you extra confluence, as we say, like when two rivers come together and become stronger. So when two parts of the chart point to the same thing, you know that's more likely to happen. And that's just a good technique in general. And that sort of indicates a more of a fixed karma. I forget the term right now, but there are karmas that are not quite as fixed in your chart that might show up once or twice. But something big, you should see that from Vimshatari, from Charanavamsha, from even Chatushtaya Dasha, from Ashatari, maybe, all these other ones. If you're good, and if you can do all that without your head exploding. We have to remember that this is a science that rishis did, and we're just going to do our best as we struggle to do it.
Yes, if we can just grasp the 1% of what rishis actually gave, it's lot.
It is. It's so much. And so, okay, so as it says on the screen here, yeah, you have different timing systems. Some are based on nakshatras and some are based on signs. The most popular nakshatra one is Vimshatari, but there are a bunch of other ones as well that you can, research on your own, people who are watching this. But the Rashi Dashas show, okay, so the Vimshatari is based on planets running. So it's more about the planets, but the Rashi Dashas are sign runs, like Aries will run, Taurus will run for a certain time, then Gemini will run. And so it shows when the karmas of a Rasi are being activated. And so therefore all the planets and the things in it are going to get activated. Okay, so how can it be activated? Things can be, what does activated mean? The Charanavamsha is a really good dasha for Chara changes. You know how Chara means like changeable or move, And then Navamsha is like the path, your outcome of your path, the ninth Varga has a lot to do with that. The significator is Venus, which has a lot to do with that and the choices we make. So the Navamsha has a lot to do with the outcome of our path and the major choices we make, the commitments we make. Some people say like the ashram we choose to live in, like a marriage ashram, a householder ashram, the renunciate ashram, or a brahmachari ashram, that can all be seen in the Navamsha, and more, not that Parashara techniques don't show it, but a little more so at Jaimini often, people say. I'm of that opinion myself too. And this dasha works really great for that, for seeing major changes on one's path that you're going to take up and you're going to really identify with. So for example, Cancer can have a little bit to do with living in foreign lands, as Jaimini says, like at a distant place, he describes Cancer. And, Cancer is about the emotions and the moon and how you adapt to life, and traveling forces you to adapt and to be adaptable. You know what I mean? So it can have to do with like dwelling in foreign lands sometimes. And then Leo Rashi can have to do with one's own territory, like one's kingdom is one of the things Jaimini says, like one's own place remains. And so if Cancer Rashi happens to be running and you've got planets in there that also may be connected to travel, then you're going to be traveling a lot and you're going to start identifying with, oh, wow, like I just love travel. I need to travel. People that just get that urge, that just wanderlust or whatever they call it, that urge to desire. Another person might not have that desire at all, but then when that Cancer Rashi runs, they might find, oh wow, I met a girlfriend who lives in Europe, I have to go see her, and they find themselves traveling. Leo could do the opposite, where one starts focusing on their kingdom and their territory more if the Leo Rashi runs, and there is maybe the sun is there and it's their Atmakaraka too or something. So there are a lot of ways we can use this, but that's one way. And the Rashi Dasha shows when a Rasi is being activated and therefore when that karma is going to manifest. So you can also look at it in any kind of way. Like say your ninth house is being activated, then you might have more interest in Dharma, philosophy, things like that. The seventh house being activated, you might find yourself on internet websites and promoting yourself and marketing, which is what's happening now. I have the dasha of my 7th house running, and so I've been on YouTube for the first time this year, you know, and so that's one way it can happen. It can happen in a lot of different ways. So use all the techniques you already know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then you can use that Charnavamsha dasha to see when one's going to maybe identify with a certain thing in their life based on the planet in there. And you can use this in all of the Vargas. So it can really be a lot to look at. So say the just the sun as just a natural karaka of the self, where the sun, if the sun is in a Rashi that's getting activated in a Varga, let's say the D30, the health Varga. So let's say one is running Virgo Rashi and sun is in Virgo in the D30. Then that alone is one indication that there's going to be more focus on health, maybe overcoming problems, maybe working on their diet more.
Mm-hmm.
You would want to, of course, read all the rest of the chart to see it.
That's great. Till date, we have actually seen the activation of the houses, the activation of the planets, and their connection with the karma. So Rashis also get activated, and they give out the karmic results. This is an interesting topic, and let's go ahead. Let's see what we have today.
Yeah. Do you want to pull up that example? I guess.
Yeah. Definitely. Today, what we are actually trying to do, that we would like to decipher the time of a childbirth using the Charnavamsha Dasha and combining it with the Vimshotri Dasha. Correct, Corey?
Okay. Yes. And also, I guess before I say this, there are so many things that will point to a child being born. So use all the techniques you already know. This is just going to add one more to your toolkit of ways of seeing it.
And the best part of this is that Corey would be actually explaining how Charnavamsha Dasha vibrates along with the Vimshotri Dasha, and they point to the same result. And if suppose they both are running the same phase, then the result that would be coming would be 100%. You cannot nullify the result. So should I pass on the screen share to you?
Yeah. Or go ahead and just flip to the PowerPoint part where it shows. There we go. Yes,
okay.
Just show that. Okay. So this is a chart of a woman who had children. She had 2 children, and these are the only children she's had. And well, you can see from, just from the chart initially, she has the moon in Cancer in its own sign in the 9th house. And the 5th house is normally the important house for children, but actually for women, the 9th house. Some of the texts say the 9th house.
Okay.
And it's something that I didn't know for a long time until just this last year, but I'm pretty sure Phala Deepika says that the 9th house is also important for children. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, not to seem sexist, but a lot of the times the dharma of a woman is to be a good mother and to keep, you know what I mean? That's at least one major component of many women. So the 9th house is your dharma. So you can see a connection to just the 9th house being connected to children for women from that level. But then from another level, if you get into Jaimini, some stuff you might learn how the even female signs, you count backwards. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, just for certain things. It's a little too complicated to get into here. But if you count backwards 5 signs, the 9th house is the 5th house. So I think that's another reason. Because of the female, you're on the receiving end, so you count backwards 5. I don't know. If that doesn't make sense, just ignore it. But so anyway,
that's really a good observation actually, and that could be the reason 1, 5, 9 are considered to be the trine, the most important points.
Yeah, it reinforces all of that. Exactly. Okay, yeah. So the moon, the 9th in general, she's kind of meant to have kids. So if you don't see a chart where you're just not, first you need to read the chart and make sure, okay, you are meant to have kids. Then you could look at where and when. But I want to, you of course want to first do that. And then you see Venus in the 4th too is sort of speaking to being a mother. The ascendant Lord is in the 2nd, which speaks to like providing. You know what I mean? Earning resources. This woman is a major workaholic too, as you can see, because Saturn and Mars are conjunct, and that tends to make one a real workhorse. But now go ahead and flip. Can you show me the, or if it's possible to show the dasha?
I don't have the dasha with me. I would request you to just, if you can.
Yeah,
just
let me. Yes, so let me find the.
But viewers, this is an interesting point which just Corey actually shared from Fal Deepika, that you need to check the 9th house also for progeny. It's just not the 5th house. So
Yes,
going ahead this week.
only for a woman. They
Only
don't
for
say
a-
that. Yeah, only for a woman.
Yes, because for a woman, giving birth is a dharma, because
Yes.
she can only give birth. That's in her nature, how God has designed her.
Yes.
9th house
Yeah.
is the house of the dharma.
Yeah, the dharma. Yeah, so it's like it's her dharma, and it's and that's the thing is the Navamsha. Just to say one more word about the Navamsha, that was a really big realization for me, is that I was always confused. Why is it the chart of the spouse? Shouldn't the Saptamsha, the 7th, be the one of the spouse? But it's about, like, it's the Navamsha is, yes, it's this chart of marriage, because most people, an average astrologer would have to meet, most people's dharma is just to have kids and have a family and keep everything going and keep the lineage going, keeping everything going. But not everyone's dharma is that. So it really is much deeper than that, but that's just the initial thing. But some people's dharma is not to marry, but to, maybe become an Olympian athlete, and that will be shown from the Navamsha. Like a brahmachari ashram, like someone who's just celibate and just only is training to become great at some goal he has. So that's an interesting thing about the Navamsha in general that I kind of had always wondered about, that might help someone. Okay, so now, okay, you have to stop sharing your screen so that I can share it or something. Does that make sense? Okay.
I just did. You can just start the share. And while we were discussing, I think we need to call you back again to discuss more on the D9 chart, so that the people come out of the view that it's not the chart of your spouse. You need not see marriages and the happiness after marriage from the chart. It has more depth in that. Okay.
So much more. Yeah, it's really so much more. Can you see my screen
Yes,
now, my website?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, I just pulled up this because that would make it easier. So the Vimshatari Dasha, I know we're focusing on Charnavamsha, but it's worth noting that the Vimshatari Dasha, the first child was born in Saturn K2 Dasha. And as you notice, Saturn is fallen, which is in general, that's not a good thing. And that would be like, okay, I don't know, you might have a miscarriage or something. But it is with Jupiter, who is in good dignity in Aries. So Jupiter helps. And this is just another kind of classic rule that I found to work really well. I forget what text says it, but they say that Jupiter can be a karaka of a lot of things, but when Jupiter's conjunct Saturn, often represents children.
Okay.
Yeah, and you might think because, children are kind of a burden, and Saturn kind of represents burden. Not that children are bad, but there's a lot of, work and duty.
Yeah,
and
after a child comes to a house, the parents tends to be more disciplined.
It's more serious. Yes, more serious, more cautious, more afraid and worried. So yeah. women get wrinkles after they raise their kids. So the Saturn factor, Saturn and Jupiter conjunct. That Jupiter is enough to make children happen. You see, whereas otherwise, if that Saturn was fallen without Jupiter, maybe this wouldn't have happened. But Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct, and they're in the ninth. Again, a house of Dharma, and for a woman, children. And this is the Saptamsha Varga. So this is the particular Varga of children. In the particular Varga of children, in the particular house of children, and the planet of children, Jupiter. So yes, Saturn Dasha speaks to children. Normally, maybe not, but that's why we need to look at the Vargas and all these things. And we see, look at Saturn has a huge agenda for children in the Saptamsha chart. Okay, so furthermore, going a little bit further down, the Charanavamsha was Gemini, Taurus.
Now,
wait, sorry.
Just to interrupt you, how actually do we come to know actually which Rashi would be activated? What's the simple calculation behind Charnavamsha?
Okay. You know, the calculation is kind of hard to explain, but basically, and I think there are differences of opinion here, but basically in the Jaimini Sutras, the Lagna, the Navamsha Lagna, if it's an odd sign, you just start it at the odd sign. Mm-hmm. If it's an even sign, you start it at the mirror, which is the sign that at Rashi asks, or the male sign that also Rashi aspects it. So if it was Taurus, Navamsha Lagna, you would start Charnavamsha with Libra, actually.
Okay.
It's kind of, might seem weird. And then if it is Virgo, you would start it at Gemini, which is based on Rashi aspects. And, you know, this might be a little too much to go into how to calculate it. Mm-hmm. So you might, if you have software, if you have Kala, that's what I was using. It does it for you. So that's one easy way. But you should learn how to calculate it. And you would have to take a class, though, to learn how to do that. Honestly, it's kind of is a lot. But basically, then if it is an odd sign, say Aries, if Mars is in Aries, the Lord is in that sign, then it's a 12-year period. If the Lord otherwise, you count how many signs from till you get to the Lord, that's how many years it will be. So say it's Aries, Lagna starts with Aries, but how many years does Aries go? Count, let's say Mars is in Leo. You don't count the first sign because that's a 12-year thing. So then you count 1 to Taurus, 2 to Gemini, 3 to Cancer, 4 to Leo. So 4 years would be Aries Dasha. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then, so basically the lengths of the dasha change, and that's why it's Chara Navamsha, changeable too.
Changeable.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave it to the users to visit your website to actually more learn into the calculative part of Char Navamsha, or we'll see in the future if we can get your appointment back where you can just give a brief how to calculate this Char Dasha. Okay.
That's almost all of it. You know, really, that's pretty much it. You just, if the planet is in its own sign, you give it 12 years. And if not, you count how many years to it. And then but then if it's a female sign, if it's Cancer, just start it with Aquarius. If it's Capricorn, just start it with Leo. I don't have time to explain why. Okay. So if you know what I mean, that's what you do. Rewind this and watch it if you want to calculate on your own. But if you want to know why, there are very good reasons why, but it's kind of a little too much for now. Okay, so, to back up just a second, so the first sun was born in the Saturn Ketu Dasha, and then Saturn, as we saw, had a bunch of agenda for children in the Saptamsha chart. And then also Ketu, you notice, is in the 5th house of the Satamsha chart. So, because otherwise we would think Saturn Ketu, that's not really a childbirth period, you know? But they're both in trines in the Satamsha. And when the dasha and the subdasha lord, when they're both in trines, things just work out more fortunately. Okay.
And the same we see in the Charnavamsha Dasha also, correct?
Yes. So, so you see for the first child, since we're still on that one, it was, Cancer Aquarius, as I wrote here. So Cancer Aquarius was running, and then in the Rashi chart, Cancer was obviously activating this moon. So that's sort of what I'm talking about is Cancer. Well, that period will run for several years sometimes, or just a few years. It depends. So it could be a long period, but still, we know that motherhood, like stepping into the dharma of being a mother, is gonna change her path and gonna be a thing that she kind of takes up and runs with probably during this Cancer Navamsha, we would think, during the Cancer period. And then it was Cancer Aquarius. And so then look at Aquarius, it has Venus, which is in the 4th house. And the 4th house has to do with the mother. And in my opinion, being a mother, if you're a woman, though I was talking to another person about it and they kind of disagreed, but that's okay. And then also Rashi aspects are really good for these Rashi dashas, obviously, because it's a Rashi dasha.
Right.
So the aspects, I would recommend using Rashi aspects if you want to really see how these things are tying in together. And honestly, Rashi aspects, in my opinion, are very neglected, part of Vedic astrology, and they really made me a lot better once I started using them. And they just show how karmas are connected and tied in. But anyways, so if you know your Rashi aspects, Jupiter is an immovable sign. The movable signs always aspect the fixed signs. So Jupiter is aspecting Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And Jupiter and Mercury give manifesting strength wherever they aspect. It's just a thing. In the Jaimini techniques, I can't go into explaining all that, but there is reasons. But if the Lord of the sign or Mercury or Jupiter are in or Rashi aspecting that sign, it can manifest. It just means things can happen because, Jupiter and Mercury are just creative and intelligent and can just make things happen, as well as the Lord of a sign. So essentially, Jupiter is manifesting Venus. And note that also the moon is Rashi aspecting Venus. So the only planets, there's no cruel factors hitting, no malefics, only benefics hitting that. And the moon represents motherhood and Jupiter represents children. And Jupiter, but then on another level, just Jupiter aspecting is giving manifesting strength. So I know this stuff is complicated. Are you following me?
Yes. It sounds interesting, actually.
All right. So then looking at Saptamsha chart, Cancer, Aquarius, still running. We're looking at a deeper level now at the Saptamsha chart of this woman. And Cancer doesn't hold any planets, but it is manifested by Mercury. You see, Rashi aspecting from the fixed sign Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Venus is aspecting, which gives growth and is good, and fulfillment. And Mars is aspecting, which gives hunger. And in this case, if both Venus and Mars are Rashi aspecting a Rashi, that's really good because it actually is like hunger, but also fulfillment. It's both. Whereas if it's just Mars, it's not as good because it's kind of showing hunger, but perhaps not fulfillment. Okay, so, but anyways, Cancer's manifested by both Mercury and the moon is Rashi aspecting it, and it's the Lord of Cancer, so it manifests it. So the main Rashi Dasha Cancer is really strong, but in the particular window of Aquarius, the sub-period, look what Aquarius holds. It holds the moon, planet of motherhood, and it is aspected by Jupiter, which gives, again, manifesting strength. And again, Jupiter represents children. And then also Saturn is aspecting it. And Saturn is actually giving manifesting strength, though not much because he's fallen. So that's not really that important. And then the sun's also aspecting, and it's debilitated. And just so you know, the father was not that supportive in this particular marriage.
Oh.
And the father represents the sun, and the father's debilitated in Libra. And the mother was definitely the one who pulled more of the weight in the terms of raising the kids and stuff. So isn't that kind of interesting?
It sounds really interesting. So means there are more things actually to learn, to know, after which we can actually decode what the pattern of planets, rashis actually wants to show in the native's chart.
Yeah, it's man, I mean, it's so fascinating, and there's so much to go into. So then just to kind of like that's enough for that child. But then look how the same techniques are impacting again when the second child is born. The second child was born in February of 87. So Saturn Moon period was running. I could have read it. I know I wrote that down somewhere. Yeah. Saturn Moon period was running when the second child was born. And in the Rashi chart, we already knew that the moon had all this stuff to do with,
correct,
motherhood. And Saturn, he doesn't really have a lot to do with it in the Rashi chart. He's not in the 5th house. He's in the sign of Jupiter, which is a sign of, the Karaka of children. But that's not really that significant. But then when we go and look again at the Saptamsha chart, we see how, my computer's freezing, but okay, here we go. Yeah, so we see how Saturn is with the, we already explained all that, how Saturn has a lot of stuff going on, children in the Saptamsha. And then the Charnavamsha Dasha that they were running was Cancer Leo. And so so in the Rashi chart, Cancer, Cancer still was getting manifested. So she had both of her kids during the Cancer Charnavamsha main period, but then Leo was running, which is the 10th house, which is always just an important house. But Leo gets manifesting strength from the sun, because the sun is the lord of Leo, and he's Rashi aspecting. And then again, notice Jupiter, Jupiter's aspecting Leo, which is the Karaka of children, and also just happens to manifest events because he's Jupiter. And then let's look further. Leo's getting manifested by Jupiter and Saturn, these children planets, which we already determined have a children agenda, and they're aspecting. Saturn gives separating strength, but he's fallen. And so that is a bad factor. That would represent some sort of unpleasant factor with the children. But then Jupiter aspecting is good and manifests, and means like, this is hitting the lagna, the path of the Saptamsha. You know what I mean? So it's like activating her path as a mother, And then also, again, Sun is Rashi aspecting. And again, the father didn't all of a sudden become a great father this time. It stayed. So, and he wasn't the worst father, but just wasn't really that supportive there either. So there you go. That's sort of showing it in both of the important Vargas, and from two different timing systems. And so then you can be much more confident when you say it. But just to give you more things to go crazy and confused about, that's not even factoring in so many other dashas. There's I think there's 12 Rashi dasas. So I haven't even learned. I'm only really competent with 4 or 5 of these. And yeah, I'll try to give more examples on my site as time goes on, but there's also Aya Dasha, which is, or some people call it Narayana Dasha, and then there's the direct Svakendra Dasha, which is really great for the D3 and for like Mars related things, like working with teammates or coworkers, or just stuff like that. Then there's the Chatushtaya Dasha. At least that's what what it was called when I learned it, and it's really great for like the D4 chart and for like property and moving and real estate stuff. That dasha works well. But this particular dasha, Charnavamsha, I think it's maybe the most important because it was listed first, and I think it shows all of the important major changes in your path. But you should definitely use other dashas. So I just want to, reinforce that. Does that make, you know what I'm saying? You agree?
Yes, definitely. And I think from what you have researched, Charanavamsha Dasha can be seen with Vimshotri Dasha to showcase childbirth more prominently.
Yes.
That's really interesting. And the other thing which I noticed over here, is it due to the Rashi aspects that you're using a South Indian style of Kundali?
It is. And so I initially, I like the North Indian chart a lot because it just looks so cool and it's so great for the houses. So if you're big on reading like yogas and houses and Raj yogas and stuff, that chart's much better. But yes, you're right. I don't think it is a coincidence that this is the South Indian chart and that Jaimini was said to be from South India.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And that Jaimini emphasizes the solar, like the Rashi, or it's like just very objective. It's so, he says like 3 words to explain a sign. He's like, Aries, 5 rats and cats. And you're just supposed to meditate on that and like just really think on it and talk to your guru and just go crazy until you get the aha moment, the eye of the Veda. You know what I mean? Which, yeah, and so that's a really interesting point. And this chart is so fascinating. I'm sure you know this already, but in case someone is watching, it's really a great chart for seeing spiritual development too, because it shows the chakras. It starts with the root chakra, Aquarius and Capricorn, and then the Jupiter signs like Pisces and Sag. These are like the sacral chakra, the water element one. And then you have the Aries and Scorpio axis, which is the fire, the belly chakra, and then the heart chakra, Venus, and Taurus and Libra. And then you go up to the throat chakra, Gemini and Virgo. And then the 6th chakra, Cancer and Leo. And the 7th chakra holds no karma because it represents liberation. So that's why there's no, or we could say Ketu is there maybe, but there's no sign for that crown chakra.
Right.
Or I guess maybe you could say Leo, but it's Cancer and Leo are sort of like the spiritual eye axis. And I just think that's just so cool.
How do you actually meditate on these all aspects?
Like on every day of the week, I like to do mantras. So I do the seed mantras for planets, the bija mantras and stuff. And, really thinking about this format, it is a really kind of a nice thing to meditate on. I'm not saying that like I always meditate on this, but I do. And think about also all the putting all the planets in exaltation or in their high dignities, and then think about how that relates to your chakras. Like Venus, Venus would be in Pisces, Mars would be in Capricorn, and then pretty much all the other planets would be above. So only the 2 planets of like being in the world, like acting, Mars, and then, I guess choosing and appreciating the active and receptive quality of being on the Earth, Mars and Venus, and then all the rest of the planets above, like Saturn's exalted in Libra, the heart chakra, Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, the third eye chakra. Like, there you go. That's probably a good segue to talk about Jupiter and pranayama too, because that all connects.
Yeah.
But you can. But that's a good way. You should think about these things and think about your planets, where they are in here, and on your chakras or in your inner zodiac, if you want. And even like. Well, I'll leave it at that. Let's leave it at that for now.
And just before to end this and go to the pranayam section, is it necessary to be initiated into these Bij mantras or into this meditation? Because there are lot of conversation or controversies that are there in the market. What's your view into this?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I'm old-fashioned, so I really wanted to be taught in person. And so I was taught in person how to do pranayam. And I think like Kriya Yoga initiation, I think that should be done in person. But if you aren't, there's probably someone living on an island right now who's just not able to get access to a person. And so I try not to be dogmatic, you know what I mean? So at the same time, that's not something that I would say as a blanket rule, is like you can't ever meditate, because that to me is like the same thing that the Baptists would try to tell me when I was young, like you can't go to heaven unless you've been baptized with this church and drank this holy water. And it was like, I was like, no. Because there must be Indians who've grown up on an island who never drank that holy water, and you can't tell me they're just going to burn in hell for that. You know what I mean? So that is a tough question. You should try to seek out that if you can in person. You know what I mean? If you can, but if you can't, you should just pray really, really sincerely. And if you are sincere, you'll find something, a book, a guru, whatever. And it will happen, because that's just the way life works. You know what I mean? And infinite God is there's a compassionate quality to this infinite consciousness that we can call Vishnu or whatever, but it knows your heart. So if anything, you just have to check in and know, you know what I mean? It will take care of you some way. A book will show up. Someone will just walk and knock on your door if it has to be. It's like that saying in India, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Correct.
So you know what I mean? So like, I just have to make sure I am ready, and then.
So it's a dedication that I should show towards the conscious or the cosmic energy, so that I get the result back.
Yeah, I guess, and it's about the effort you put in too. And there are some people who get into Kriya Yoga as like, or a lot of it, not just Kriya Yoga, any kind of guru initiation. Some people get into it as like, okay, well, this is all I have to do, and then I'm good. You know what I mean? And that's not really what the gurus are saying. I mean, granted, there may be someone who that's all it took for them to get enlightened, but that's because they put in the work in past lives. You know what I mean? Like Ramana Maharshi or someone who just like woke up. That's because they put in so much effort in past lives,
So true.
and that's shown in their chart too.
So true, so true. So let's use your energy, and let me give the opportunity to our viewers that they are initiated a bit, at least into pranayam today. So let's have a session small on pranayam and how is it connected with the Jupiter aspect.
Yes. So pranayam, pran is life force, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Like I think in China they call it qi, and we call it spirit in the West. So pran, and then yam means restraint, as you know, like the god of restraint, and then means not. So not restraining means expanding. So pranayama just means like expanding of life force, and you do that through your breath. That our breath is like our leverage, our tool for bringing in more prana. But if you just go all the time, you're not going to feel it. So there really are, precise ways to do it that I don't know how the yogis figured it all out, but they did, you know what I mean? So you do want to get a good guru, or you'll just hyperventilate or something, you know what I mean? So that's why I do advise learning it in person. And there are many types of pranayama. So this is just in general,
Mm-hmm.
And if you've never done pranayama, a really simple, not really like an intense pranayama, but just a breathing exercise, you can try, if you're watching this, if you're at home, just try breathing with your nose and mentally try to breathe and feel air going into the higher space in the brain. That's like one light way to kind of try to experience that. Or even in the West, medical doctors are now starting to advise people breathing, counting to 5, and then exhale, counting to 7 or 8 or 2 seconds longer, because it just forces them to exhale completely. So even that is sort of a mild pranayama. But anyways, why is the guru, Jupiter, exalted in Cancer? I think it is no coincidence that Cancer is the sign of breath and the rhythm of life and our emotions. And as we know, our emotions are connected to our breath. Cancer is the sign of the breath, and then Jupiter is the guru. And every planet is Jagrat, or awake, in their exaltation sign. So the guru is awake through the breath, through the environment of the breath, which is to say that we all enlighten our own higher self, our own inner guru wakes up through pranayama. So that's why gurus always suggest pranayama, or not always, but pretty much, if you're a healthy, intelligent, functional person, you can benefit from pranayama, So that's it's just amazing how the zodiac, the zodiac itself is showing that, you know what I mean? That universal truth. Because even outside of India, even in Western occult practices, they're all about breathing exercises, So there's something about that. There's a lot of truth to that. What do you, does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. And that's all a very good observation why Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. Very few would be knowing that Cancer is the sign or the Rashi of breath. So,
yeah, and also another way to look at that from a health standpoint is that we know that the moon rules water, and that in the context of the body, the moon rules the blood, which is the water of our own inner world. And the moon ruling the blood, well, your blood health is totally related to your emotions, and to your inner life. And so Cancer relates to our inner life. And when we get, if you have debilitated Mars in Cancer, then you might literally have blood issues, and that's connected to not having a tougher time with the emotions, because Mars is debilitated there. Or there's so many ways that this can work out. When we're fearful, we breathe differently, and it changes our emotions. And then when we're happy and excited, we breathe differently. You know what I mean? It changes our emotions, and it changes our mind. And note that Cancer is also a Brahmin sign. It's the Brahmin Rashi.
True.
The water signs are the Brahmin signs, or moksha signs. Notice that also Cancer is a sattvic sign. And Cancer is a sign of happiness. It's a sign of of happiness. So we could say that, that's the thing, is when you do pranayama, at least in my own experience, I know I'm not saying that quite right, because I speak the American version of Sanskrit words. So forgive me. But at least in my own experience, whenever I did 3-hour meditations, did a lot of pranayama, I would go out of it just laughing, just thinking everything was so funny, you know what I mean? Or just feeling so much more loftier and happier. So this is sort of that connection, I think. And then also one word about Jupiter and his name being guru. You know, guru, one of the first definition I learned of that is like darkness and light, like the one who takes you out of the darkness into the light. But then there's another definition. The Sanskrit definition of guru means just heavy, is another definition. Have you ever heard that one? I didn't know that one for a long time, but I looked it up to be sure. And so the guru is just that which is heavier in experience of that thing that you're wanting experience in, you know?
Heavier in value.
Yeah.
Heavier in value.
Yeah. Like he has really lived all these things, you know, that you're just learning about or something. So isn't it wild that Jupiter actually is the planet with the most mass in our whole solar system?
Mm-hmm.
The sun has 98% of the mass of the solar system. So the sun is totally the king. Everything outside of the sun is 2%. It's just 2% that he's fooling around with. But out within that 2%, Jupiter is the heaviest. And Jupiter is the heaviest planet. And so literally, Jupiter is said to affect the sun's orbit. So the sun shifts a little bit more as it's moving because of Jupiter. So that's like the king. The sun is the king of the kingdom, consulting with the guru. And slightly changing his course just like 1/10 of the way, which a year later ends up being a much bigger course. And to me, that's a real counselor. It is not someone who drastically tells you got to change your whole life tomorrow, but just gives you just the slightest shift in your course. And then months later, you're on a higher trajectory. You know what I mean? And then a year later, you come back and you're way on another level. And it was real. It's like they say in the Tao Te Ching, which is also a very Jupiter-like book, a very wise book. They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, you know? So the littlest thing can create a huge impact. So those are just like other little tidbits about Jupiter that I find interesting. But it also connects to like what you were saying about asking about like getting initiation. And that's the thing is like, there's some story that one of my teachers told about. It's from one of the like Puranas or something where a guy's like asking, man, how did you get so wise? There's this sage. And he's like, oh, I just have a lot of great gurus. He's like, how many gurus do you have? He's like, I have like 27 gurus. The bumblebee is my guru. The flower taught me this. Like, you know, the river is a great guru to me. And he starts listing everything in nature around him. And so that's why but you have to have a lot of wisdom to be able to see that too. So that's the only reason I'm not dogmatic about you have to have a person initiate you, because life itself is always giving us the answer, you know? So
wise of you, actually.
It's a little bit of both to answer the question.
So just if we try to connect this, people who have a weak Jupiter in their chart, can pranayam, daily practice of pranayam, help them come out of the situation?
Yes, exactly. That is why gurus and even jyotishis and astrologers suggest pranayam, because it is in a sense like you are mentally exalting your Jupiter. You know, you're like mentally doing that every day. So then, as your life goes on, we can change our karma, just so slowly, just ever so slowly. So as we go, it's just very, very slow. I guess a lot of people say like 3/4 of the chart is kind of unavoidable, but then an extra 1/4 is up to your free will. And honestly, that's a whole debate. I can't say I don't know. You know what I mean? I really can't say because I'm not enlightened, but I guess I would say that when you have a problem, Jupiter is only exalted 1/12 of the time. So most people reading this don't have an exalted Jupiter. I don't have an exalted Jupiter. So you want to do pranayama every day and use your intention and put effort into it. And don't be just like sleepy, like, okay, you're going to do 12 pranayama, blah, blah, now I'm going to work. You got to get into it. You know, that's why people do all the hatha yoga and all the sun salutations, to get fire and heat and then do it. But if you're healthy, or you don't have to do that, but just do whatever you can do to get into that state, you know, and to stay there. And that really is going to wear off and exhaust your karma. And as you know, people who meditate will probably know this already, but when you meditate, sometimes like the weirdest memories from childhood or just weird things come in your mind. But that is like your karma exhausting itself, and you just watch it and let it play out. You know what I mean? And eventually it'll fade away, and you'll be back to just a clear, you know, just state of awareness. And then as time goes on, that bleeds into your daily life. And then you're just happier a lot more.
So great, so great. So is there any particular time to do the pranayam, or we can do it anytime?
Yes, and of course, you know, they always say that like the Brahma Muhurta, the 2 hours before sunrise, and I really agree with that. I mean, it would be a lie to say that I always do it. I don't always do it that early. I like to sleep in sometimes, and I struggle, you know what I mean? I'm still working on that. But when I do, I notice the benefit to be so much more profound. When you go to bed early and get sound sleep and then wake up at like 5 or 6 or whatever time it is, 2 hours before sunrise, it's like God is just present everywhere at that time. You know what I mean? And you get inspiration more easily. Even if you're not meditating, if you're wanting to write. Actually, that's a thing. Writers, like I know that writers in the US, they know to wake up and write between like 3 and 6 a.m. and that's when they'll have the most inspiration. So that's a known thing that writers use to tap into this inspiration. And so that's what we're doing too when we're doing.
But nowadays in the social media age, people actually go to sleep at around 3. The time they should actually wake up, they get into sleep. So could be that is the reason we are going back in the cycle.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing. Don't beat yourself up about it if you're not able to fit all the rules, because when you learn about meditation, there are so many rules, like, you know, go to bed at this time, wake up at this time, only eat this, don't do that, don't do this. And that is all true. But at the same time, don't beat yourself up about it if you can't, you know, if you fall short of that or fall short of a goal, because I've done that a lot. And in the past, when I beat myself up about it, that didn't help. That didn't make me meditate any better. I just tried again, and I just still do the meditation, even if I sleep in till like 9 or 10 or something, you know, whatever. If I feel horrible, I still make myself do it. And in time, it gets easier, you know. It's not like it's hard now, but it was at first, you know what I mean? And so when you're getting into meditation, it will be tough, you know, and that's why sitting with a person really helps. But even if you don't have that, give yourself time and be patient. And or unless you like to just be hard on yourself and beat yourself up, and you've got a really strong sun in Mars or something maybe, and that works for you, but that doesn't work for everyone.
So true. So actually, people need to check their horoscope properly before they get into any kind of a practice.
Yes, that's true. And you should get a reading from someone about that, because this is just general information. If you were, you know, like if I was looking at your actual chart, I would specify the information to your karma and your chart.
So what I would request the viewers is to go down to Eye of the Veda website, book a session. What you will get double benefit, reading of the chart and also initiation as a proper time when you can actually do the pranayam and the meditation. It would be really beneficial. eyeofthevedas.com, right? But he's very busy. His appointment gets blocked for around 2 to 3 months. So you need to be patient to actually connect with Corey. So
yes, and yes, I have I have a tough time getting the emailing and answering all that. That's one of the toughest parts for me. Just reading the chart is easier sometimes than doing all the.
So it was a real great session, and you can say enlightenment has come up in the Saptarishi's YouTube channel. Before we part, because as we are discussing on Jupiter, do you have any kind of a specific technique or anything which you have seen of Jupiter working on a chart, which you have not read across in any books or other astrologers not speaking of it?
Yeah. Well, Jupiter's house placement tells you a lot about how wisdom will flow into your life. And this is maybe almost so basic that it's not written in a book, but sometimes the most simple things are overlooked. So Jupiter's in the 5th house. It probably is just natural for you to come into philosophy when that Radasha runs. But if Jupiter's maybe in the 6th house, maybe it's like health or a difficulty that causes you to get into spirituality. You know what I mean? If Jupiter's in the 11th, it might be basically it can show like your how you can come about things. But then also Jupiter can tell you a lot about the client and like how receptive they will be to your own advice too. So that can be tough sometimes. So if you see someone with a really like Jupiter maybe really conjunct Saturn, like within 1 degree or something, that person, you just don't be upset if they're not happy with the consultation, because it might not be all your fault. It might be their karma too.
Oh.
So we have to remember that like when you do a reading, it's like it's a mixture of my karma as the reader, but also the karma of the person having the reading done. And if they just don't have the merit to get good answers, even if I was like Ganesh himself, it would, you know what I mean? It would be like not the best answer.
Okay.
That's the craziest thing that I have learned. And I've learned that that's really true. And it actually made me to be able to be at peace and know that there's more going on here. That even though I beat my head over the desk like, and I still gave the wrong answer, but maybe they were just meant to have the wrong answer to take the next step. And if you notice, that happens too. Like sometimes you need to be told you're never going to amount to anything, so that you are so galvanized and you're like, no, I will amount to something, and you become incorruptible because of that prediction that you just will not let come true. For example, Paramhansa Yogananda, they predicted he was going to get married and avoid it twice, and then finally get married. And one night he had a vision. He was like, it's not true. This isn't true. It's not going to happen. And he burnt his chart in a fire. Like he literally burnt his chart up, and he said like seeds of past karma cannot germinate in the fire of like realization or something. And he just burned his chart up.
Oh.
So there's more. So when you study astrology, all these techniques, they're great and they work. But then when you actually go and do a reading, sometimes some magical things take over, and you might just blurt out something, and it ends up being the right prediction that they're meant to take. And then you like later on are trying to understand, why did I make this prediction? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, because it was like just the merit that they had to have that told. And so you give it to them. But then likewise, sometimes you can try your best and they just are meant to sort of struggle with it. You know what I mean? The Buddha, the story of the Buddha is another example where he was told that the king, when his son was born, Prince Gautama or whatever, he was told that his son would either be the greatest spiritual teacher or a great spiritual teacher or a great king. So he sheltered him from anything that could make him unhappy his whole life growing up, because he wanted to be a king. But that, in fact, ended up setting the stage for him to be a renunciate once he learned about suffering and all these things.
Right.
So that couldn't happen if the astrologer didn't make the wrong prediction. So sometimes Vishnu, so sometimes Vishnu has to make you make a wrong prediction, okay? And that's okay. So just be at peace with doing your best.
So true. So the main thing, the basic thing, if you are looking into chart, is to have peace within oneself. then only you can actually resonate with the chart that is coming to you for reading.
Yeah, that's
Thank
a
you.
better way to put it. Yes.
Thank you so much, Corey, for your valuable time. And we look forward to have you again on our channel with some more wisdom, which connects astrology with spirituality and meditation. And with that, we would like to stop this session. And thank you again for your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Real honor to be here.
Thank you.